Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first Reds and Rivals show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie, and I'm your host for this evening. During the show, we will be reviewing the Liverpool match, but also from a Liverpool point of view, we'll also be assessing the games that have taken place and the results from our top six rivals. When I say top six, I'm referring to Manchester United, Manchester City, Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, the traditional top six, and see how they've done in the Premier League match week. So let's start with the first game. And of course, that is Liverpool versus Bournemouth. Now, the game, of course, kicked off the season on Friday evening. And in terms of the fixture, we paid tribute to Dior Jota and Andre Silva. Before the game, the fans, sang "You'll Never Walk Alone," and it was, very, very heartfelt. Great atmosphere in the stadium, and it was a great sort of start to the fixture. Unfortunately, there was an issue that, of course, occurred, which I'm sure everyone is aware of, in terms of Anton Semenyo, unfortunately receiving racial abuse from a Liverpool fan. I've heard today that he is going to receive a nationwide stadium ban, which, yeah, is definitely the right thing to do. That sort of behavior, unfortunately, has become a bit more common in society. And unfortunately, that's a reflection of how it is on the football pitch as well. But as a Liverpool fan, as a Liverpool football club, that's something we don't tolerate. And I'm glad that the club were very firm with their stance. They made sure that the police were involved and the individual will get, punished the right way. And yeah, disgusting behavior, and especially on a day where it's the opening fixture of the season and, you know, the game started where we were paying tribute to Dior Jota. That's what it should have been about. It should have been about Dior Jota. It should have been overshadowed by, one idiot from the crowd. Well, unfortunately, that's how things occur sometimes. And yeah, very, very unfortunate. But, we have to give credit to Semenyo for reporting it straight away. Some players may have, ignored it and done it after the game. But he went up to the referee, told him what happened. And the referee, to be fair, did a good job to inform the two coaches, reported it, and I think, it was communicate amongst the players on the pitch as well. Because I saw a lot of the Liverpool players coming up to Semenyo and just, patting his back, just say, "Look, it's all good. Like, don't worry." So, um, yeah, that's not the sort of things you want to see on a football pitch. And hopefully, these sort of things that, it might have to be a thing where we have stronger repercussions for these sort of incidents. And if that's the case going forward, it has to be done because you have to give out a stronger message to these individuals who, come up to the stadiums and do this sort of behavior. Yeah, for me, absolutely disgusting what we encountered there. But I'm pleased to hear that, the club have, pretty much given him a ban to Anfield, definitely. But of course, he's also received a nationwide ban as well. So something, positive out of a negative situation, I guess. But in terms of the fixture, uh, you know, this is what grabbed my attention in the first half. In this moment, you had Ekitike literally on the halfway line. The through ball was presented to him, and this defender, Senesi, it hit his thigh, then it went up to his hands. So even in that moment, he's handballed it, but we can regard that as accidental because it hit his thigh and then it hit his hand afterwards. But then there was a second phase where he tried to smack the ball like he's actually trying to bounce a ball like he's playing basketball, basically. Um, and the VAR sort of reasoning that came out was suggesting that there wasn't a second phase. That's what it felt like when it was communicating out loud. For me, abysmal decision. Should have been a red card. Uh, some will say, well, look, it's not a complete goal scoring opportunity. He's on the halfway line. But the thing is, even in that moment, Ekitike would have been through on goal. There was no way that the player would have tried to catch up with him. So for me, that's a poor decision, and it should have been, given as a red card. Some fans may disagree, but that's my opinion there. Uh, but in terms of the goals, Ekitike opened the scoreline with a fantastic finish. Got slightly lucky in terms of, the ball coming back to him, but sometimes you have to create your own luck when it comes to those sort of moments. And look, he looks like a real talent. The goal he scored against Crystal Palace was one that he kind of broke, as his opening goal for Liverpool. But then this was the real official Premier League fixture, and he opened his account this weekend. So yeah, great goal, great finish. And some have said, do we need Isak? I still think we do need to sign Isak. We need more strength and depth in our squad. But having Isak and Ekitike as your two strikers in your squad is what dreams are made of. So hopefully, Isak deal can happen in due course. But back to the game, Ekitike pretty much became provider moments later as he laid the ball off to Gakpo, who scored a second goal. Semenyo scored a couple goals to bring the score to level, showed real determination to block out what happened earlier in the game. And, his focus was on trying to help his team out. So he deserves huge praise for that. Um, but Liverpool got the third goal. I thought it was the winning goal at the time, where Chiesa came off the bench and scored an exquisite volley. What a finish it was. Now, for me, he has to stay. Um, the way I'm sort of looking at his position in the squad, I believe that he'll provide the role that Diogo Jota presented for us all those years ago, where you have an attacker who can come off the bench, play in different positions, but also produce moments like the way Chiesa did in this Bournemouth fixture. And Chiesa is a fantastic finisher as well. So I feel like he's got a big role for us this season. And I really hope, there is no sort of movement in regards to his future, because there has been rumors that he may want to return to Serie A. But I feel like, he's ready to fight for his place. And I think he wants to stay for another season. So that's a positive sign for Liverpool there. And Mohamed Salah grabbed the fourth goal with a rare right-footed finish into the bottom corner. Now, Mo Salah doing Mo Salah things. Let's be honest. Where he's breaking records once again. He's now equaled the goal tally as one of the top all-time goal scorers in the Premier League, but also he broke the record where he was the first person to score in 10 consecutive open day fixtures in the Premier League. Now, also from a personal point of view for Mohamed Salah, I think the goal will do him a world of good. He hasn't quite, been the same since the passing of Diogo Jota. And look, understandably, he's lost a close friend and someone that he spent a lot of time with over the years, and that was evident as he was very emotional after the game. And look, we all grieve in our own ways, in different ways, and I think this match was an emotional one for everyone associated with Liverpool. But hopefully, with Mo Salah, he can go on and make Diogo Jota proud as well with his football, and hopefully Liverpool as a team, as a collective, can do that going forward. But overall, great start for the Reds. Not the best of performances. We have looked slightly shaky in defense due to our new setup and new personnel in the team. But I think, you know, little tweaks here and there should, fix that in the near future. But look, end of the day, it's 3 points on the board, and that's what matters in a 38 game season. Now, let's focus on our rivals and we'll discuss the first game, which is Wolves versus Man City. Firstly, a lovely tribute from Wolves with regards to Diogo Jota. They had a huge tifo in the crowd, which was a very nice touch there. Diogo's Jota's wife, alongside Ruben Neves, and also Diogo Jota's parents were in attendance. Which must have been a very emotional feeling for them, as they could probably feel the love and the admiration from the crowd. But of course, they've lost someone very close to the heart. So definitely, you know, a bittersweet moment for the family there. But in terms of the game, Man City showed their true quality. Erling Haaland scores the opening goal with a tap in. Now, I must confess, I'm very annoyed with myself that I didn't add Haaland in my final lineup for FPL. I added him when I created my team last week. Then for some reason, I thought, let me be a smart ass and start watching some of these, so-called FPL experts or these content creators. And for some reason, none of them had Haaland in their team. They had Watkins and they had Cole Palmer in their team selection. So I thought, do you know what? let me try and follow their path because they're experts and they've probably done well over the years. Yeah, thanks for nothing to those content creators. The lesson here is always go with your gut instinct, or in my case, my football knowledge, because it's pretty much assuring that Haaland does guarantee you goals. But look, back to the game. New signing, Reinders opens his goal scoring account for Man City, and what a player he looks like, doesn't he? Again, I'm a little bit annoyed that Liverpool were in for him. I mentioned him on a previous transfer show before we had actually signed Verts that I like the look of Reinders, and I think he would have been the perfect profile for us. From what I've seen for when he played for the Netherlands and for AC Milan, he's a player that's comfortable in a double pivot, so he can play as a number 6. He can play as a box-to-box number 8, but he can also play as a number 10. So I felt like he would have been a great player for us for Szoboszlai to have some competition, but also a player that could play with Szoboszlai in the team as well. Um, but hey, look, who am I to complain? My team have just signed one of the best attacking midfielders in the world in the name of Florian Wirtz. So, it could be worse, right? But moving on, Haaland scored his second goal to make it 3-0 for Man City. And new signing, Beef Jerky, also scores his goal for Man City as well. Overall, a great start for Man City with a 4-0 victory. But look, I'm not surprised. I think Pep has recruited very well this summer, and I think it's going to be a tough test for Liverpool to win their consecutive title. But I still have belief that Liverpool are favourites and will go on to win the Premier League. Next fixture, Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. Goalless at Stamford Bridge, but it should have been, in my opinion, as Eze scored a belter of a free kick, but it was ruled out by VAR as Gay was within a meter of the Chelsea wall. I don't know if it's new rules, but I felt like that was a bit harsh. And speaking of Gay, it's interesting that he wasn't in the best of moods after the game as he blanked his coach, Oliver Glasner, who was trying to call him over, but yeah, Gay just, was in his own world, did not want to speak or be in any dialogue with the coach. Now, is there a bit of friction between manager and player, or are we reading into a bit too much? I think we are. It might just be a simple thing where Gay just wanted to head back to the changing room, so I don't think there's too much to it. But of course, the player is trying to not engineer a move away, but he's trying to seal a move away from the club and join Liverpool. So that might have, been in relation to that, that sort of dismissive attitude from Gay towards his manager. But what we do know is Liverpool are trying to sign the centre back. Currently, the talks are ongoing, so hopefully, we'll get some sort of development in the near future. Time's running out. It's the 18th of August, less than 2 weeks away. So hopefully Liverpool get that together. I'm really hoping that Mark Gay joins Liverpool as it's vital for us to add another centre back in our squad. We're quite light in numbers, but more importantly, he provides Premier League experience. He brings leadership to our backline. And look, even just to sound a bit, out of the box, he can actually play as a defensive midfielder, so he could provide cover for midfield, on an emergency basis. So for me, he ticks a lot of boxes. So hopefully, Liverpool can get that move done at some point. Next fixture, Manchester United versus Arsenal. This big game, took place on a Super Sunday. Manchester United versus Arsenal. Sesko versus Gyökeres. Who's going to come out on top? Well, it was Arsenal in the end who scored the only goal. And surprise, surprise, it was scored from a set piece. Looks like Mikel Pulis is at it again. Well, look, I can't lie. The winning goal was a tough one to watch. In fact, I think it was shambolic defending from Manchester United. What was the goalkeeper doing? He should have been a bit more dominant in that situation and try to punch the ball out of danger. Instead, it was a tame effort, and Calafiori scores from 1 yard out to give the Gunners the win. But Manchester United huffed and puffed to get the equaliser. Real pulled off a spectacular save from Cunha's left foot effort. Cunha, to be fair, looks like the real deal for Manchester United in this current team. In terms of the other new signings, Mbeumo looked decent. Sesko came off the bench. For me, I don't rate him very high. I think he's a quite average player and wasn't very impressive during the game. Gyökeres for Arsenal looked average at best as well. So both of the new strikers will need time to settle into their new teams and also playing in the Premier League. Not everyone is like Hugo Ekitike and can hit the ground running right away. And the final fixture, Tottenham versus Burnley. Solid win for Spurs at home. Kudus, who has looked explosive since joining Tottenham, he provided the assist for the first goal as Richarlison scored from close range. The same combination happened again for the second goal, but this time it was an acrobatic finish from Richarlison to score his second goal of the game. And Brennan Johnson makes it 3-0 with a neat finish at the end. So a great win for Spurs and also for the new manager in Thomas Frank. So that is our match review of Liverpool plus our rivals. So what we'll do now is we will present um, the FPL Manager of the Week. So the FPL Manager of the Week goes to Muma, and his team name is, or her name, I'm not sure if it's a boy or girl. It's Muma Kabamba, and they have scored 83 points. So big up to Muma. A very good tally, to be fair. Now, in terms of my performance, if I had Haaland in my team, maybe I would have been number one myself. But honestly, I'm disappointed that I didn't pick Haaland in my team. I'm going to have to probably do a few out of the window transfers to get my team in order. But this week I've settled for 29th place with 60 points in total. So what we'll do now is we'll present the top 10 and see, who has done well to, start the new season in higher ranking. So of course, as mentioned, Muma is the manager of the week, so of course takes top spot. Then you've got Godwin in second place of King of Fantasy FC. You got Ellie Clark, Girls Are Loud. Thomas Boyle with the Silly Soldiers in fourth place. In fifth, you've got Anish Dogra. Big up Anish, and his team is called In Full Flow. That's in reference to Flow Inverse. I like that name. In sixth place, you've got Manuel Gogri, Galacticos. And in seventh place, you've got Gavin Manning, Redmen Army. In eighth place, you've got Humphrey the Forest, sorry, Bogart in Portobello. And in ninth place, you've got Kwame Levels in Levels 24 FC. And in 10th place, you've got Ashioke Oshioma and with 68 points. So big up to you guys completing the top 10. A lot of teams are in joint position. We've all got similar scores, but the scores will change as the season goes on. If you have an FPL team, but you haven't joined our league, I still believe you can. So all you have to do is enter the code 5XG41K, and you should be entered in the league with your current game week 1 score. So yeah, if you haven't joined our league, feel free to do so. It should be some fun. Now, before we close the show, just wanted to touch on a few rumors that have been circulating in regards to the Premier League. So Eze is a player that has been spoken about quite a few times during the window. There was interest from Arsenal, but for some reason it's cooled down. And currently it appears that Tottenham are closing on a deal. Last week he did have a release clause of 68 million, but that has expired now. So therefore, Spurs are trying to negotiate a deal that is a bit on the lesser side. So they are trying to wrap up a deal for about 55 million pounds. My thoughts on this potential move happening, I think it's a great signing for Tottenham. Having Eze, who can play on the left wing very comfortably, but can also play that number 10 role, I think he's going to give them great options going forward. And look, he's a player that has a lot of ability. He's a player that's very quick on the ball in terms of his dribbling, good passing range, set pieces. And he scored a free kick against Chelsea, which was wrongfully disallowed in my opinion. But he's got a lot to his game. I feel like he will fit in really well with the way that they're playing. Sudus looks like he's been one of the best signings so far in the Premier League. He looks explosive on that right hand side. So if they've got Eze on the other side, and the number 10 position is still a bit of a problem position because it would have been taken up by Madison. I don't know if they've got enough cover for that role. Maybe they will sign another player. They've actually been linked with Harvey Elliott for that position. So maybe that's something on the cards in the next couple of weeks. But I think Eze would be a fantastic signing for them. So that one looks like it's getting closer. So I would not be surprised if it's made official in the next day or so. And sticking Crystal Palace, got another player in Mark Gay. Now, we all know Liverpool are in pursuit of signing the player, but funny enough, Tottenham are trying to hijack their deal. They've apparently offered him a very good contract offer to get the Palace defender away um, from South London to North London. But the defender has apparently suggested that there's only one club that he wants to join, and that is Liverpool. So that gives us a slight advantage, whether it happens or not. Remains to be seen. I'm very confident that we will sign Mark Gay by the end of this window. Uh, if I was to give a prediction, possibly I see us possibly placing a bid later on this week. I think that would be the inkling, but that's probably my inkling for another player, which we'll speak about very shortly as well. And look, there's four players that are connected to each other in some shape or form. So you've got Ben Doak on the left hand side, who's just made his move official to Bournemouth. It's a £25 million deal. Now, rival fans will be asking, how on earth have you just mustered up 25 million for an unknown youngster? That's how Liverpool do business. It's just the way we roll. So, £25 million is a player with potential. Not just a random player. We signed him from Celtic about 2-3 years ago, and we've brought him to Liverpool. Had a great loan spell for Middlesbrough last season, and that's what's increased his stock because of that loan spell. And the good thing about this deal from a Liverpool point of view is that we have a buyback clause. So that buyback clause, I believe, can be activated in a couple of years' time. So if he's, lived up to his potential and we feel like, maybe we can add him to the squad, we have the option to do that in the near future. So overall, a good deal for all parties. Liverpool get 25 million that can be reinvested into the squad. Bournemouth sign a great player who's versatile. Predominant players on the right back can play left wing as well. And in terms of the player, Ben Doak, he gets first team football going forward because the reason why I feel like this move has an effect on all the other teams, um, his signing is basically because he's replacing Otara. And Otara is on the verge, or to be fair, I think it's pretty much done now, is signing for Brentford. So, he was the first player that's left, and Ben Doak ends up being his replacement. Now, the problem with the Otara deal is that people were assuming that Wissa is the player that departs because Otaro replaces him in the team. But today it's been communicated that Otaro is actually Mbeumo's replacement and not Wissa's replacement, which of course probably hasn't impressed Wissa one bit because he's gone a bit AWOL to say the least. He's not turned up for training. In terms of his social media, he's got a blanked up profile picture. He's removed all his pictures in affiliation with Brentford. So he's completely, unsettled and annoyed. And it's quite ironic that that's happening with a player that Newcastle are trying to sign because their fans are making a big hoorah about Liverpool, unsettling a player who's pretty much doing the same thing, but that's not something that's come from Liverpool. The player was promised that he would get a move this summer, and I think that's the same with Rissa as well. And both of those players have been denied by their clubs, to be sold in this window. So, you can't be insulting your own player in Isak, but then applauding your club for trying to get Wissa through the line. Like that's very hypocritical. I don't know, us fans, football fans, can be hypocritical, but there's a time and place. This is a bit of a shameful thing to say out loud. But I don't know what's going to happen in terms of the Wissa deal because the price has been increased. Brentford wants 60 million for him now. They signed Otara, so if they were to sell, sorry, Wissa, then they'll have enough money to find an adequate replacement to add to the squad as well. So it's going to be interesting how it happens. I think Wissa will probably get his move in the end, as well as Isak. I think Isak will get his move to Liverpool as well. If I was to make a prediction, I think we'll get some sort of official approach for Isak later this week from Liverpool. I think that should, you know, start the ball rolling, and then from there onwards, hopefully, Liverpool can conclude a deal. Be a deal where I feel like, you know, it should be enough where a bid gets accepted the first time rather it being an ongoing negotiation, because we've not got too much time, less than 2 weeks. So it's something that Liverpool need to do quick and fast if we want to get the striker through the door. So let's see what happens. It will get very interesting as, you know, the days go by and we're getting closer to the deadline. Teams might start panicking, and then you're getting all sorts of players coming through. Because from a Liverpool point of view, I don't want to put this energy out there, but if we weren't going to get Isak, what do Liverpool do? Do Liverpool sign a high-profile winger that can play as a striker, or do we wait it out and try and get Isak in the January or next summer window, or do we sign another player instead? You know, maybe we get Wissa off their hands, and he can be like a backup striker for us. Who knows? But I think there will be lots of twists and lots of twists and turns in the upcoming transfer window, especially when it comes to Premier League teams. So yeah, let's sit back and see what happens and what unfolds. But you know, we will get some official news very soon. We've probably got another week in terms of the Premier League match week, and then after that we'll have a closure in terms of teams making any signs. But we'll have to wait and see, you know, what business is done. Um, but yes, that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Now, in terms of upcoming shows, I will be doing some Liverpool transfer shows later this week. I'll be doing one tomorrow. Hopefully, we get some more developments, and then we can, you know, have a proper discussion tomorrow. Then I'll have another show on Wednesday, and then Thursday we'll do a match preview of the Newcastle versus Liverpool fixture, and then yeah, we'll do the watch along for that game, and then we'll have another Reds and Rivals show this time next week. So we'll have this show will definitely take place either on a Monday or Tuesday night. It'll be a weekly show where we speak about Liverpool in more detail, but then also have a quick eye on our rivals, see what they're doing, and assess their situation in the league as well. So yeah, should be, you know, interesting show going forward. So yeah, one to watch for sure. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.